How's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning in for another video from Sandcombe Scouting. We've had people requesting a 3-round mock draft after the recent 1-rounder we did, so we're going to do 3 rounds today. Going to try to keep the discussion on each pick relatively short, so this video doesn't take an hour. But let's get started. If you're going to be doing a mock draft yourself, I would recommend using this website, NFL Mock Draft Database. There's a couple of good ones, but I think this one is the easiest to use and also the most accurate with its big board rankings. So now we got the Carolina Panthers at number 1 overall. This is one that actually does require some discussion because it's very people are very unsure about whether Bryce Young deserves to go number 1 or CJ Stroud. It's more of a coin toss at this point than anything. I think that they both have high upsides and reasons they deserve to go number 1. I think CJ Stroud is more pro ready and has more of an NFL body type. And then Bryce Young is a little bit more athletic and able to extend plays a little bit more. However, the size is actually a very big concern. In my opinion, I think CJ Stroud is the better prospect to take at number 1. There's just less questions about will the size work out, how, because you can have all the arm strength in the world, but if you can't see to make the plays, it doesn't matter. We've seen that with Kyler Murray. We've seen that with other shorter quarterbacks. So I think I'm going to take CJ Stroud here at number 1. Then at number 2 for the Houston Texans, I think they'd be happy with whichever player fell to them out of the top 2 quarterbacks. So not too much discussion needed here. Just grab Bryce Young. Now, we're not going to be doing any trades in this mock draft. This would be a good trade down spot for Arizona. I've heard a lot of people talk about that, and I do agree completely. However, in the position where we're not trading, I think it would be probably best to grab Will Anderson Jr. here. Get them some help on a pass rush that desperately needs it. Now, with the Colts at number 4, there's a couple of different options they could go quarterback wise. I wouldn't consider Hendon Hooker, so it's pretty much between Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. However, I think with the athletic upside, also due to the fact that the Colts do love to run the ball and don't pass that much anyway, I think having another option in the running game to complement Jonathan Taylor and their good O-line, Anthony Richardson's a good pick for them here. And then with the Seahawks at number 5, I would take Jalen Carter, but rumors coming out of Seattle have been that they've really been trying to avoid getting a lot more of those character concerns, quote unquote, bad culture players. They kind of want to stick to a more clean image and work on this rebuild right now. And so I think that next best defensive player on the board, the edge rusher Tyree Wilson, they definitely do need some pass rush, and he has a lot of flexibility as to where exactly on the defensive line you want to play him. Now with the Lions coming in at number 6, I think that they're doing a great job rebuilding right now. They do still need more corner help, so I'm going to go with my number 1 corner, Christian Gonzalez. Big corner, great athlete. Then with the Raiders here at number 7, I know that I don't think anybody has a lot of faith in Jimmy G as their starting quarterback. However, I don't really think it's worth taking Will Levis here when you just paid Jimmy G. So I think that their next best option here, again, Jalen Carter would be a great pick, but the Raiders have had a lot of problems with character concerns recently, and just poor culture there. So we want to stay away from that. So I think that the best option for them on the board right now would be to grab either a corner or a tackle. I'd probably lean more towards tackle and grab them Paris Johnson from Ohio State. Now with Atlanta at number 8, I am a Falcons fan, but I know it seems like I'm letting Jalen Carter stay to my team at 8. However, I think that, if you can keep him home in Georgia, he was largely pretty good and not very he didn't have a ton of character concern issues, and it was mostly just the recent unfortunate news about the Georgia player and the Georgia recruiter who died in that car accident. God rest their souls. But I think if you can keep him close to home, keep him home, close to good influences, and try to build that connection between Georgia and the Falcons, then I think Jalen Carter to the Falcons here would be a good pick. Now with the Bears at number 9, another good trade down spot, even though they already did trade down from number 1. I think grabbing them a tackle is easily their biggest need. So I'm going to go with Broderick Jones, big athletic tackle, back-to-back Georgia players. Now at number 10, got the Eagles, and there's a couple different ways they could go as well. Corner is still kind of a need, despite them re-signing both Slay and Bradbury, just due to the fact that Slay is 32, going on 33, and Bradbury is 29, I believe, as well as when he's playing good, he's playing great, but he is rather inconsistent. So corner is definitely an option. I don't know if edge, the value is really here at this point. I mean, taking running back would be interesting, but I I just can't. Even though Bijan's amazing, I can't see him going in the top 10. So I think right here we're probably going to go corner and bolster an already fantastic secondary with Devon Witherspoon. Now at number 11, Tennessee Titans, we're going to be going tackle or quarterback, and Ryan Tannehill is just to flat out say it, he's ridiculously washed up. And then the word is that coming out of Tennessee, that office has no faith in Malik Willis. So we're going to grab them. Will Levis, he has drawn some comparisons to a young Ryan Tannehill. So I think if you can, sort of get like a younger, better, more athletic, younger, so that you're able to mold him into the quarterback you want, I think they'd be happy with that. Now the Texans back on the clock at 12. Once again, a lot of options here. Edge, wide receiver, probably the two directions. I don't like receiver here, though. I think I'm going to go edge and take Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. Amazing power rusher. Real exciting to watch. He can also play a variety of spots in the D line. And then with the Jets at 13, we're going to go offensive tackle, help out Aaron Rodgers or whoever ends up being behind that offensive line. Grab Peter Skoronski, adds the guard flexibility as well. And I think if the board did fall like this, I don't think the Patriots could be more thrilled with Joey Porter being available at 14. So we're just going to go with Joey Porter Jr. Now, this is a complicated pick because everybody wants them to take a receiver, but as we all know, they haven't taken a receiver in the first round since 2003, I believe. It might have even been 2001. But this is what I would do. So I'm going to take a receiver, and I'm going to go with my number one receiver, Jordan Addison. And then for the Commanders at 16, all the offensive linemen that I would take here are already gone. Not really any quarter. Yeah, Hendon Hooker should not go this early. So I think corner is definitely the good pick here, and go with Deonte Banks out of Maryland. Big athletic corner, like almost all of them in this class. And then with the Steelers, unfortunately, we just had a couple of good, corners go right before them. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. I don't really think the value is quite there at this point, but Myles Murphy would be a good pick here. So would a guy like Kalijah Kancey, and that's where I think I'm going to go. Kalijah Kancey, dominant speed rusher on the interior of the defensive line. Little undersized, but I think, we've seen it happen plenty of times where those slightly undersized but athletic interior pass rushers turn into very plus players in the NFL. Now we got the Detroit Lions back on the clock at 18. Went corner with their first pick. Edge or D line probably be the pick here. And with Myles Murphy here, I'm not going to hesitate. Now the Bucs on the clock at 19. This could be a potential landing spot for Bijan, but I really don't think it's going to be that important to them when they have other much bigger needs. So I'm going to go with Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. Didn't allow a single sack in the SEC this year, which is a ridiculous feat with the level of competition we see in the SEC. As we get further into the draft and the picks become less big name players, there'll be a little less conversation on each pick, but just don't want this draft to last an hour and a half, but I also don't want to do it in 10 minutes and skip through everything. So now with Seattle back on the clock, they went edge with their first pick. They went Tyree Wilson. So offensive line and defensive line, both potential needs here. I think they're probably fine at corner. Probably go corner in a later round. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Brian Bresee here out of Clemson. Was rated much higher to begin the season in the draft process, but people have gotten a lot less high on him lately due to some injuries, and being not as athletic as people may have thought. Now for the Chargers here, we're going to go Jackson Smith-Njigba. They really need another receiver option with Keenan Allen getting older and Mike Williams being their only real dominant receiving option lately. Keenan Allen has been, like I said, getting older, struggling with injuries as well. Wasn't always the greatest separator to begin with, even though he was a great route runner. I think that getting an instant separator like JSN would be great for the Chargers. Now for the Ravens, they just signed OBJ, so receiver isn't as big of a need as it was. Edge could be possible, and with Nolan Smith here, I think I'm going to take Nolan Smith for the Ravens at 22. Now we got the Vikings back on the clock, and or not back on the clock, but on the clock for the first time. And I go Kelee Ringo for them. Insane athlete, probably one of the most athletic corners in this class. Has fallen off a little bit lately. The tape isn't quite as good as you would want it to be, but young, athletic, lots of potential, plus size. Now we got the Jaguars on the clock. Corner, once again, a pretty big need for them, as well as tackle, safety, tight end. I don't really think tight end is too big of a need for them, as they did retain Evan Ingram. So, gonna go the best safety in the draft, or nickel corner, or whatever you want to classify him as. I'm gonna take Brian Branch. Now we got the Giants on the clock, and they're, as a lot of these first picks, there's a couple directions that they really could go in. Corner is potential, although the value definitely isn't there right now. Interior offensive line, very possible. Wide receiver, also possible. There's a couple of great options. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Zay Flowers here. Get them a real. They haven't had a real good receiving threat in a while. Honestly, they've had a lot of okay options. Some options that didn't work out as well as you may have wanted, such as Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney. So we're gonna try to get them a young, talented receiving option. Now with the Cowboys, I think that I've let the good tight ends slip enough, and I'm not going to make it too complicated. Just going to grab the Michael Mayer, baby Gronk, beast tight end prospect out of Notre Dame. Then we got Buffalo on the clock, and although there is some good interior offensive linemen available and even wide receivers, I think this is where we let Bijan stop falling to. He is an amazing prospect, one of the best running back prospects we've seen in a long time. And although we probably won't see running backs go in the top 5 like they were a few years ago with Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon, I think that taking Bijan in the first round is definitely a solid option. Now we got the Bengals on the clock, and I'm going to go with a personal favorite for like a team fit for me, and I'll go with Darnell Washington. He calls himself like the 5th or the 6th lineman, and I think that the Bengals can use all the offensive line help they can get. And he still is a good receiver, but he's a great run and pass blocker. So if you throw Darnell Washington, basically like adding a second right tackle or a second left tackle in there, I think that'll help get Joe Burrow a lot of good protection, as well as having another good check down option. Sorry, struggling with these spring allergies, dry throat right now. So now we got New Orleans on the clock at 29. And so you got a couple options for them. I know I keep saying that every time, but there's so many good prospects available. D-line and edge, definitely directions they could go in. I would be very okay with taking a wide receiver here. I think I am going to go edge, though, and I'm going to take one of the most unbelievable athletes we've ever seen on the defensive line, Adetomiwa Adebawore. I worked in that pronunciation, so in the comments you can let me know if I'm wrong, but I know I'm not. All right, Eagles back on the clock. They went corner first. Now there's a couple options. I gotta find something else to say every time there's good players available. But edge, T line. There are some edges I would consider taking here, but I really just think they have enough on the defensive line right now. I know that they value defensive line depth, and they probably are going to take one anyway. But this is what I would do, so I'm going to draft them Jahmyr Gibbs after losing Miles Sanders. I know they signed Rashad Penny, if I'm not mistaken. But if we know one thing about Rashad Penny, it's that although he is dominant when he is on the field, He frequently gets injured. Now we got the Chiefs here at number 31, last pick of the first round because the Dolphins forfeiting that pick. Gonna grab them a receiver, and despite him dropping off and being a little lower on people's boards than he was just a month or two ago, I can't let Quentin Johnson slip out of the first round. I think his size and athleticism are just too good. He was a dominant receiver at TCU. I think if he can work on his hands and his route tree, that he has the potential to be a dominant X receiver in the NFL. Now starting off round 2, now is where we hopefully get these picks off a little quicker. So we went D-line for the Steelers last round. Corner, there is some great value on the board at corner, but it's such a deep corner class. So I think we went defense last time. We're going to go offense, go Anton Harrison, grab them a tackle. And now I think I have to go receiver for the Texans after going edge for them last time. Grab the best receiver on the board, in my opinion. Extremely great separator, good hands. People have been saying that they remind him a lot of like a young Steve Smith or Santana Moss. So I think I'm going to go with Josh Downs here out of North Carolina. Great prospect, great receiver at UNC with Sam Howell and Drake May. Now for the Cardinals, they desperately need corner, and there is good value here, so I'm going to grab them Emmanuel Forbes at Mississippi State. Colts on the board. I think receiver is a good option. They have a slow receiver room. Like Michael Pittman's a beast, but he is not very fast at all. So I think we're going to grab them a dominant speed threat to complement Michael Pittman with Jalen Hyatt. Now, for the Los Angeles Rams, with the amount of edge talent on the board, I think that would be a good pick. Corner as well after just losing Jalen Ramsey. It's kind of a toss-up at this point. I think the edge talent on the board is better than the cornerback talent, though. So I'm going to go BJ Ojulari at LSU, younger brother of Azeez Ojulari, the pretty good pass rusher for the Giants. Seahawks on the board for their third pick. They got a lot of high picks this year. I think here about is where you start to really consider interior offensive line. Osiris Torrance definitely could have gone in the first round, but I think he's a good fit to Seattle right here. Now LA Las Vegas actually back on the clock, and they went Paris Johnson last round. Now I'm going to go defense, either edge or D-line. I'm not this high on Mozzie Smith. I think he's a good player and he is a great athlete, but I'm not quite this high on him. Edge, still a lot of good talent, deep edge class. Corners on the board are pretty good. I think I'm going to go with Tyreek Stevenson. Another one of these big, physical, athletic corners in this draft class that is just riddled with them. Now we got Carolina at number 39. Went quarterback for them last time. They really do need a receiver to try to replace DJ Moore, although I suspect it won't be very easy. They have a lot of holes right now. I mean, they did sign Miles Sanders, so I don't think running back is too big of a hole right now, but edge or receiver, I think we might have to go edge because I'm just not necessarily willing to take any of these receivers here. I think it's just a little too early. So I think we're going to go edge and draft them. Will McDonald out of Iowa State also has a little bit of flexibility as to where you can play him on the D-line. Not too far interior, but definitely can play more than a 4-3 D end or 3-4 outside linebacker. Could probably also play a 3-4 D end as well. Now we got D-line as the biggest need for the Saints. I agree. Receivers also a big need too, but there isn't really, again, same problem we had last pick. There isn't really great value on the board for receiver right now. I might actually consider going running back due to the fact that we really have no idea what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. So that would be something to consider. They do love their offense there, but I don't know if I'd want to take Devin Achane here. And I don't think Zach Charbonnet would be a very good fit. So I think we'll probably wait on that and draft them a D-line might have to be the pick, but I'm not really sure. This is one that I hadn't put too much thought into before this. I mean, tight end wouldn't be the worst choice, but I just feel like they have much bigger needs than that. I think we're just gonna bite the bullet and draft them a tight end. Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. Great receiving option. Tape was fantastic. Now that we've drafted them a new quarterback, gonna have to work on that offensive line. They cut Taylor Lewan. Gonna draft them a hulking offensive tackle, DeJuan Jones. Fun fact, he was the biggest jersey that Nike's ever had to make. And they've made jerseys for a lot of legendary NFL players. Excuse me. All right. Now we got the Jets back on the clock. We went tackle for them with Peter Skoronski, although he could be a guard. You never know. I think linebacker would be a good pick here for them. And I think Trent Simpson has fallen enough. I actually do think he probably could and should be a first round pick, but I think it's okay with him slipping a little bit into the second round as long as it's not too late. And the Jets back to back here. Gonna draft them a safety. Antonio Johnson, absolute beast. Some people might think this is a little early. He didn't have the best performance at the combine, especially on the bench press, but I think he's got great ball skills and he plays very instinctually. I like him a lot. Now with Atlanta back on the clock, we just drafted D-line for them. Corner, I really don't think it's too big of a need, especially after signing Mike Hilton. Cam Smith is a great young player. Definitely something I'd consider. Edge, maybe. Tackle, no. Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, the best value really is at edge. So I'm going to go Felix Anudike-Uzomah out of Kansas State. I actually had a conversation with him over the DMs on Instagram because I had ranked him as the, I think, number 7 returning edge, like before this season. So like I had ranked him as like the number 7 like returning edge, and he actually reached out to me and he was like, I'm way higher than number 7. And I was like, hey, I don't intend any disrespect, but he did have a dominant season. He definitely, put his money where his mouth is. So my bad on that, Felix. Now we got Green Bay back on the clock, went receiver for them. I do think you could just go tight end and try to double up on offense. I wouldn't be opposed to that, and this is what I want to do. So I think I'm gonna go Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. Now they got a couple of good receiving options between him and Jordan Addison for Jordan Love now. Jordan and Jordan. That'll be a fun connection. Now we got the Patriots back on the clock. Went corner for them first round. Tackle value really isn't there. Wide receiver value. I mean, it's not bad. The Patriots do love smaller receivers too, so that is one thing to keep in mind. I don't think edge is a very big need at all. D-line. I mean, I really can't see like too many picks that I feel like would be a good fit for them. So I don't really want to double dip at corner, but I mean, I feel like taking an off-ball linebacker wouldn't be the worst pick for them. So I'm gonna go with Drew Sanders out of Arkansas. They do love those big physical linebackers. Washington back on the clock. Need offensive line help desperately. John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota. Great interior lineman. Not going to make that more complicated than it has to be. Lions on the board. Corner and edge went double defense. Probably going to go offense for them now. Draft them a new tight end. Going to take Sam Laporta out of Iowa. Him and Tucker Kraft I see as pretty equivalent prospects, even though the board somehow thinks Tucker Kraft's way worse. Not exactly sure what's up with that, but still great corners on the board. I think the Steelers would jump at the opportunity to take Cam Smith here. Is someone that was ranked a lot higher coming into the season. Still considered a fringe first, second round guy, but tape wasn't as good this year as it was the year before, so I understand. Now, after passing on running back in the first round, I think this would be a good spot where they could consider running back. Zach Charbonnet would be a good pick here. They do have other needs as well. There's just so many good corners that could go so early. So, yeah, I think we're going to pass on running back and draft them Julius Brents, gigantic corner out of Kansas State. Now we got Miami on the clock for the first time. They did lose Mike Gesicki. I do think tight end is a pretty big need for them. Gonna take Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota State. Seahawks on the board. This is probably about the spot where I could see like someone considering taking Hendon Hooker and like sitting him. However, they did just re-sign Geno Smith to a pretty big contract. So I think actually we'll probably double up on the defensive line here rather than Mozzie Smith. I think that he has fallen enough now. So with the Bears, they went tackle, and now they need something on defense, either D-line or edge. I'm going to take Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, Notre Dame's all-time sack leader, which should really tell you something considering the players that have been through there, like, Justin Tuck, Alan Page, like, great players like that. Now, Chargers back on the clock. Tight end is something I'd consider, but we've kind of already taken most of the good ones off the board, so I guess not. Defensive line, yeah, I'd be fine with taking an interior defensive lineman, and I'm going to keep Tuli Tuipulotu in Southern Cal. Led the nation in sacks this year, was a very dominant interior pass rusher, although he wasn't quite like a defensive tackle. He was a little in between. Gotta plug my laptop in so it doesn't die in the middle of this draft. Yeah. All right. Now got Detroit back on the board. They've gone defense, offense. This is a spot where I could see Hendon Hooker going because you're not really sure exactly what you're getting with Jared Goff. So I think you can sit him behind Jared Goff, maybe help him learn the system. I think Hendon Hooker would be a fine pick here. Jacksonville back on the clock. Went safety last. Might be looking for offensive line here. Corner as well. I think they could use a nice slot corner. Grab a guy like DJ Turner or Clark Phillips. I think Clark Phillips would be a good pick here because although he is rather undersized, he is a very talented corner. Great ball hawk as well. Giants back on the clock. Took wide receiver last time. Going to keep helping out that offense. Grab interior offensive line, Steve Avila. Now, defensive line. I think that'd be fine right now. Defensive line for the Cowboys. Although the value, I keep just struggling with the value here. Linebacker potentially. We're just going to grab them some help on that offensive line. Grab Cody Moak out of North Dakota State. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Bills back in the clock. I think linebacker probably a pretty good need. They did lose. They lost Tremaine Edmonds, so I think that bring Jack Campbell in there. Hopefully, not have too much of a drop off at the linebacker position, despite Tremaine Edmonds being a very talented player in his own right. Now we got the Bengals back on the clock. Boundary corner, big need for them. DJ Turner is a little undersized, so more of a slot corner, so probably won't go there. Well, it really might be the best option for them, honestly. So I think value-wise, gonna have to go DJ Turner out of Michigan. Somebody's gonna have to step up and play the boundary despite being a little undersized, and he's definitely got the speed and athleticism to do it. So then we got the Bears back on the clock. I don't know about double dipping at edge, but Isaiah Foskey and Keon White are both guys that are pretty flexible and can move around, move a little more interior if they want. So yeah, I'm fine with going Keon White out of Georgia Tech here. Then we have the Eagles on the clock again, their third pick. And now where I would start considering taking D-line for them is when all the value at D-line is kind of gone. Classic. I would consider Siaki Ika, but they don't need a nose tackle. They got Jordan Davis and they got Fletcher Cox still. Gervon Dexter is someone I would consider. I think that's where we're going to go here. Back on the clock for the Chiefs. Did sign a tackle. Not really the biggest need. I already went wide receiver. Yeah, this is like a sort of a puzzling pick a little bit. I really have no idea where to go here for the Chiefs. So I think we might just yeah, I really have no idea where to go here, honestly. Backup tight end would be good, but the value isn't there. They don't really need corner. Safety, not really a need either. You could go running back. I don't know. I think edge is probably their biggest need, but I don't think that there's good value here. I think we're just gonna draft them like probably just best available. Go with running back Zach Charbonnet. Bears back on the clock, much easier to make a pick for because they have a lot of needs. It's going to continue to help out that offensive line and grab Joe Tippmann out of Wisconsin. Starting off the third round, we got the Texans. They've already gone quarterback, receiver, edge. You could pretty much go anywhere here. Honestly, you could pretty much go anywhere. But we're going to go tackle, drop them a little bit of a developmental prospect with Matthew Bergeron. So now we're in the last rounds. Good amount of picks left though. Try to bang this round out. Arizona on the clock. And wide receiver, definitely potential. Defensive line is also potential. Yeah, I'd be okay with drafting Keanu Benton right here. And that'd be fine. Denver on the clock for the first time. Uh, this is another thing where I don't even know what to pick for them because they do have a lot of needs. But I mean, edge would be good. It's a third round. Yeah, I'd be willing to take Derek Hall here. That was third round and back-to-back picks. Tackle maybe. I think linebacker would be good here. Corner as well. Maybe not quite yet, but yeah, I'm gonna go Dion Henley out of Washington State. Very fast linebacker, athletic. Rams back on the clock. Now we're gonna go corner, best available corner, to try to help fill the hole of Jalen Ramsey, even though it's much easier said than done. Garrett Williams out of Syracuse. Raiders back on the clock. Another receiver here I could see being a good pick, but I do love Siaki Ika as a prospect. He has fallen down boards a little bit. I'm really not sure why, but you know, people who are trusted in the draft community have been agreeing with his fall, so I don't want to keep him up in my first round when there's clearly something I don't know. So we're gonna go Siaki Ika right here, get them a stud interior defensive lineman. And now for the Saints, I think the value is much better for wide receivers. So I think we're going to go with Cedric Tillman and probably go back-to-back receivers. While the Saints got more of a contested catch, jump ball receiver, Cedric Tillman. I think for the Titans, we're going to go with Rashee Rice. Still has pretty good hands, isn't bad in the contested catch, but definitely more of like a faster deep threat receiver. Texans with their last pick in the first three rounds. They've really got a lot of good talent here. Might double dip at receiver. Definitely still a position of need. Could go linebacker. Probably going to go interior line though and grab Luke Weichler at Ohio State. Browns with their first pick because they wanted to trade for Deshaun Watson. You can probably figure out how I feel about that. But anyway, D line, a need, doesn't matter. Value isn't there. Wide receiver, probably a need. I could get down with drafting Marvin Mims here, but I would rather take Tank Dell for them. Undersized for sure, but he is just a magnet for the ball. He's got great run after catch ability. He can catch very well. You just got to give him the ball and let him make plays. Falcons on the clock. Went edge and D line. Probably going to try to help out that offense now. Tackle is potential to get a developmental guy with Jake Matthews getting pretty old. So I think I'm okay with that. I'm going to draft them Jalen Duncan of Maryland. And then probably going to do the same thing here. I'm like, they desperately need some speed on that Patriots offense. So we're going to go Marvin Mims right here. Super talented deep threat. Been a little rough the past couple of years, but his freshman tape was so good that if you can bring that out of him, then you're going to be very glad that you picked him up here in the third round. Now we got the Rams on the clock again. Double dipped on defense. I would draft Andrew Voorhees here, but I know I'm going to get railed in the comment section if I do it, just for being way too early. I might be okay with drafting a running back here, but I'm going to draft Sidney Brown, super athletic safety out of Illinois, had an amazing combine. You can never have enough talented DBs. All right, now I think we can do some more to help out the Packers defense. Andre Carter is a complicated issue. I haven't really kept up with what's going on with that situation in terms of like, will he have to, will he have to do his service for the Army? Will he be able to get out of it? So that's a little up in the air, but he is a very talented player. So I'd probably be all right with taking him here. Yeah, we're gonna do Andre Carter, get them some edge help. Especially once you get him in an NFL weight room, it's going to be a whole different story because despite like being a defensive lineman in the D1 level, he really was doing mostly like calisthenics, and like the Army training is very different than a normal traditional D1 college football strength and conditioning program would be. I'm probably a little naive by saying that it's mostly calisthenics, but his bench press numbers and stuff will show you that he wasn't doing a lot of heavy lifting. Now we got the Colts back on the clock. Getting closer to wrapping this draft up. So many directions you could go here. I think I'm going to go draft them Eli Ricks here. I think that he is a very good corner. I think that he has been a little like his name's been thrown around a little bit and dragged through the mud, but I think he's a pretty good corner. I think he's still got a lot of potential. And if you look at some of his tape earlier on in college, if he can replicate that once again, you're going to be very happy you picked him up in the third round. Steelers back on the clock. I'm going to grab them Byron Young out of Tennessee, another sick athlete, dominant edge rusher. Or not quite an edge, but dominant pass rusher. Got Lions back in the clock. They really need help on that interior of their defensive line. I just don't think the value is here. They used to be very high on Jaquelin Roy, but I don't know what happened to him this season. This is about the spot you probably go running back for the Lions, and I'm going to go with the guy right now that I have the highest out of all these guys, Tank Bigsby. Big fan of him. Bigsby, fan of him. Yikes. But nah, big fan of Tank Bigsby. I think he's a fantastic pure runner. Back on the clock for the Bucks. Probably about to go running back again, but no, I think Zach Harrison's fine value for here. Pretty strong, just needs to, put together all that raw power and skill and be more of a complete pass rusher. Seahawks back on the clock. Corner would be a fine pick here. Going to go with grab them a good slot corner. Go with Trey Hodge Tomlinson, LaDainian Tomlinson's nephew, I believe. Back on the clock for the Dolphins. Running back is a big need. They already have a ridiculous amount of speed there with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And I know one of the running backs they have right now, even though he's not like a top tier running back, he is very fast. But we're just going to add all that speed, make it impossible to cover everybody. Keep Devin Achane out of Texas A&M. Chargers back in the clock. This is probably going to be a hot take because people are going to say this is a big reach. But if you look at Zach Kuntz's combine numbers, they were unbelievable. He's like 6'8", super fast, like great at jumping, very strong. I think just in terms of raw athleticism, you got to take him on day 2. I don't think he stays till day 3. Ravens back on the clock. Still really do need receivers, so they have a lot of smaller, quicker receivers. So I think we might want to grab them a bigger body, contested catch kind of guy. Grab them A.T. Perry at Wake Forest. Receiver, I think, is neat. I think that it's very important that the Vikings have 2 receivers, so they can't just double, triple cover Justin Jefferson all day. Gonna grab Kayshon Boutte, another guy whose name has been drugged through the mud a little bit, but is definitely still a very talented receiver. Has shown some excellence at LSU with like a 320 receiving yard game, but you just need more consistency and a better attitude out of him. Jaguars back in the clock. Going to make it pretty simple, driving the best tackle on the board with Tyler Steen out of Alabama. Giants on the board. Corner would be good. I'm okay with taking Darius Rush here. I know I've kind of passed him up for corners that were rated a little bit lower, but going to go with Darius Rush right here. Cowboys went offense back to back. Yeah, I'd be all right with drafting them a linebacker here. I know they still do have, obviously Micah Parsons, but they have some other solid players back there. So it's just really the only place I can see value for them right now. So besides maybe another receiver. Yeah, that's fine. We can go another receiver. Grab Tyler Scott, get them some blazing speed in there. Bills in the clock. Kind of running back and linebacker. I think you could draft a safety here and just think about the fact about both of your safeties are getting much older and have dealt with injuries recently. So we're going to go with Jordan Battle out of Alabama. Would have been a first-round pick last year, but decided to come back and didn't ruin his draft stock. Obviously, he's still a top 3 round pick, but could have probably been a first or early second round pick last year. Anyway, Bengals in the clock. Did lose Jesse Bates. I think they got Dax Hill though. This is about a spot where I would consider taking Jaquelin Roy, so I think that's what I'm going to do. And a strong interior pass rusher with a very high win rate in the SEC. It's a lot easier said than done. Going to get some blazing speed for the Panthers. A lot of receivers are very fast in this draft, and going to grab them Jonathan Mingo, Mississippi. Ole Miss, rather. Eagles on the clock again. Tackle. Yeah, getting a developmental offensive lineman for them would probably be pretty good. Their offensive line is obviously sick, but it is getting much older. So I'm going to take Blake Freeland out of BYU here. A little bit older of a prospect, but still got a pretty high ceiling. Chiefs back in the clock. Receiver and running back. Linebacker, not really too much of a need. Edge, I just don't see the value. This is tough. I keep getting screwed when the Chiefs come up in terms of value. I'd probably consider going the other Byron Young here, but it is a little early. I mean, honestly, I think at this point you probably just got to go like best player available. Not really any good value for any position in need for them. So I'm going to go with Henry To'oTo'o out of Alabama. Back on the clock for the Arizona Cardinals. Defense all 3 times. I'm gonna go offense now, try to help out that offensive line. I don't care if you say it's a reach or not. We're going Andrew Voorhees. I think he is a very good and flexible offensive lineman. On the clock for the Commanders. Noah Sewell is going to be the pick here. I think he will still go in the first 3 rounds, despite not being a top 10 pick like people thought in the beginning of the year. He is still a great athlete, and people do people do think about stuff like that. Like people do think about, oh, like look how good Penei Sewell's been. He's got great work ethic. He's tough. His brothers, same type of thing. Brown's back on the clock, one wide receiver. I think about now, grab them some D line help, get them Zach Pickens out of South Carolina. 49ers on the clock, their first pick. Yeah, DB is a need for them, but I don't really know about, once again, value. Yeah, I mean, I think value wise, it says they really need a safety. I don't know if it's that big of a need, but I do love JL Skinner. He's a fun prospect. He is a very hard hitting safety at Boise State, and also that's a sick name for a safety as well. Raiders back on the clock. I think I'm gonna go with Yaya Diaby here for Louisville. He's a pretty exciting athletic pass rusher. Niners back on the clock, back to back picks. Gonna go. I mean, just value wise, like it's really not too many options. Gonna go receiver, get him Trey Palmer out of Nebraska here. Then we're gonna grab Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green. Not too many options as you get to about this point, but I think those are both players that could manage to find some playing time on their rosters and add some youth and some athleticism. Bears, last pick for the mock draft. So far, we've got them offensive line, 2 offensive line, and 2 defensive line. Probably going to need to grab something in between, whether that's a corner or receiver. I think we're going to finish off and grab them, in my opinion, the best receiver available, Xavier Hutchinson at Iowa State. So there we go, guys. That is the 3 round mock draft. Saw a lot of interesting falls and rises with players getting taken, in the board's opinion, either too late or too early. Saw some teams get help that they desperately needed in certain positions, sometimes even getting 2 or 3 guys in the same position, depending on how bad of a need it was. If you guys want me to do team specific mock drafts, more rounds, less rounds, with trades, let me know in the comments section. Going to be coming out with a lot more videos as the mock draft or the real NFL draft is approaching less than a week away. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Have a good one.